Hello, I am Madeline James, and today we're going to be starting a new, video series, a new playlist here on my channel. I'm about to start planning my third writing project that I've kind of covered here on YouTube. So the first one, I was really already I think I had finished drafting it before I started this channel, and then the second one I've sort of planned while working on this, or I might have planned it before I started this channel. I'm not sure, but I haven't started from the very beginning, so I thought it would be fun to do that. So I'm going to sort of show you in this video what my plan is and the steps I go through, and then we're going to work through those different stages together. I'm a huge planner, so I'm very detailed and meticulous, and I figure everything out beforehand, and I'm a big world builder, so yeah, we're gonna go through this process together. So let me get my notes together and then we can get started. Okay, so as I already sort of mentioned, I am a really big plotter. I like to have all my characters sort of detailed. I like to have like face casts for most of them, or some sort of artwork to sort of visually represent them. I like to have all my maps. I like to have a lot of world building. I like to have a lot of stuff figured out beforehand, and I think part of this is because I'm a plotter. I think one of the core differences between plotters and pantsers is the ability or preference to come up with things while you're in the middle of writing. And that's something that's really hard for me in the way my brain works. Like, if I can sit down and map everything out and like sit there and actively think about it, I come up with so much cool stuff. But if I try and come up with that like random stuff while I'm writing, it's just not as good, not as interconnected, because I don't have all of the stuff in my brain at one time. So that's sort of how my process here works. So I followed a different process for my last two books, although my most recent one is going to be the most similar to this process because I've mostly figured it all out. But with my first book that I actually finished, the one I'm going to start querying here soon, I went way overboard. I sort of started with the let's build an entire world and then we'll worry about the story. And I world builded so much stuff. Like, it was probably for me, honestly, like more of an exercise in how to do that. I came up with so many family trees, so many people. Every person in my world had this deep story and this history, and like 99% of them didn't even show up in the book at all. Like, they were in countries that didn't even get touched on in my first book. So it was a little bit overboard, and then there was a lot of stuff that I didn't do that I probably, that would have actually served my story more, that I sort of had to do on the fly. So one of my goals, I guess, moving forward with world building is to try and world build the stuff that matters and kind of try to make that world building fit into the story I'm actually telling more so, right? Because your world building can serve your plot, it can serve your themes, it can serve the moods and emotions of your story, and so that's what I kind of am trying to lean into more so than I did in the past. So at this stage, my process is sort of like three phases. I sort of have a first phase that's like a brainstorming phase. Let's see, what did I call it? I called it my inspiration phase, which is pretty accurate. And this is sort of like where I would put together mood boards, list of ideas, concepts, inspiration, kind of go through my plot bunnies and figure out what I want to use and what I don't. Just kind of like rough, high-level ideas of what I definitely want in the story. And it's really just like what's necessary for really broad story mapping, so it isn't any specifics. So like rough idea of the setting, main character idea, maybe another side couple characters, the magic system concept, idea of like some conflicts that could show up in the story, like stuff like that, my theme, all of that, maybe historical references and cultural analogs. And that's sort of phase one. It's just sort of gathering all the individual pieces that I'm going to want to put together in the story. And then stage two, which I called the drawing phase. I don't know why I called it that. But stage two is essentially where I start connecting all those pieces together. So sort of like if you lay them out on a big map and you just start drawing lines and fleshing them all out. And I sort of hop around. I don't really do like, oh, we're going to completely do the setting, or we're going to completely do the characters, or we're going to completely do this. I like to hop around and just kind of keep circling all of my little concepts that I need to flesh out, because I find that when I do that, I will then find ways that I can input things from other sections that I'm working on into it, and I can just keep kind of building it up like that, layer over layer, keep pulling in all the threads from each other into this one story, so that at the end you get a world, a story, characters that are all so tightly coupled, and it gives me a lot of ideas, and I just really like doing it that way. which is, I guess, a little bit of a hard process to detail. Like, it's not like, oh, figure this out, then figure this out, but that's what works for me, so that's what I do. So this big part of stage 2 is going to be sort of like a mind map. And I don't always do this super structured, but I'm going to try and do it more structured for this next project. Well, I'll put like all of my ideas on, like, I might actually use my big whiteboard there and start drawing out ideas and being like, okay, this is my idea for this character, these are some notes there, this is this, and then start like drawing lines and just like kind of going literally around in a circle and being like, oh, well, I can pull this in here, and if this is the case, then I can do this, and, you know, drawing it all out like that. So that's a big part of that step. I also will make lists of detailed world building I need to figure out. You know, like, I might have some high level setting ideas, but I'm not going to figure out like every individual setting. I'm not going to make maps at this point, you know. So I'll sort of make that list of what I'm going to need to bring the setting to life and also to interact with the plot and the characters, like what's, you know, going to be needed for all of that. What else do I have here? I will plan some of the major, like, save the cat beats or whatever story structure I'm doing, so like high level plot. I will, you know, expand on some of the necessary stuff, do some more storyboarding, just like keep going around and digging in, making it more detailed, At this stage, I may also do the log line and the pitch. I haven't done that before at this stage. It's something that I've done at sort of later stages. Like, I don't think I put together a pitch or a log line for my first, like, Blood Magic project until, oh gosh, probably until I was a few revision phases in. And then for my second project, I did it after I'd already outlined it, and I wasn't, like, I don't know if I was fully drafting yet or if I was halfway through drafting, but it was definitely, like, in that first draft phase. And so for this project, I really want to come up with those first. Like, before I even have a super detailed outline, I want to know what those, like, core, like, deep things at the heart of the story are, so that I can sort of make sure everything stays revolving around that, right? And I think that's really important. So then let's see. So then for stage 3, and I might, like, put this list, like, let me scoot over for you. I might put this list here so you can sort of see it. But so stage 3 is, like, building everything in the project out, all the details, full outline, everything. And this definitely takes the longest time. So I sort of have full picture stuff, so just generally expand on everything, do a full outline, etc. And then I have characters, so I have to come up with all the main characters, the side characters, the background characters. I want to have the personality, goals, and arc, backgrounds and timelines, relationships, descriptions. And then if it's not the main character, the ways they're going to interact with the main character, how, you know, they might push on the main characters, like inner conflicts, how their own conflicts will interact with them, stuff like that, what their purpose in the story is. I want to make sure I have, like, what are the contradictions of their personality and, like, thresholds they have, right? So they aren't all, like, super clean dimensions in their personality, where there's some things that, like, you know, making them more complex. What else do I put in there? Pictures of them. I'll write out some, like, physical descriptions. I want to make sure I get in their, like, conversational style and the ways that they would talk. And then for settings, I have all the major geographical areas that are going to be relevant. I need to figure out weather, flora, fauna, individual maps, physical descriptions and features. And this will sort of depend on what I plan out for the story. So I'll start with, like, general maps, and then sort of as I get an idea of the outline and what settings the different scenes will take place, I'll start to flesh those out more. And then each location will have maps, maybe architectural descriptions. I might get some, like, mood boards of similar places if there are, you know, similar architectural styles, who, like, lives or can be found there, so, like, crowd descriptions or, like, what you might see there, just, like, all that little stuff that I can pull from as I'm writing. And I do have, as part of, like, historical references or cultural analogs, I have a lot of reference material, which I think I did a video on that, or I'm thinking about doing a video, I don't remember. But I have a lot of stuff up there that's, like, depending on what I'm pulling from for the story. I have, like, the Writer's Guide to Everyday Life in the 1800s. I have the Writer's Guide to Everyday Life in the Wild West. I have books on medieval England. I have books on different architectural styles. Like, I have one on Japanese castles from 1540 to 1640. Like, just, I have tons of books like that that I can go through for research purposes, just to kind of really get those kind of inspirations settled, you know? So then civilization and society, I do, like, organizations or factions. So the government, if there are any like special orders or guilds or anything like that that would be relevant. I break down the maps into settlements, so like what is the countries called, what are the cities, the towns, whatever, and what their purpose are, what differentiates them, where they are on the map. And then for families, I'll come up with structures and roles, any of their potential powers, beliefs, and values, notable figures, the histories, etc., all of that. And then for magic, I do the magic system, which will be like, you know, rules, descriptions, limitations. I might have drawings. Like, it sort of depends on what the magic system is, what I need to world build for it. And then if there's any like magical creatures or plants, any items, and then I go through and really think about the impact of magic on the world. Like what things would have been affected that, you know, maybe my cultural analogs or my like historical references, like what would differentiate them because of my unique magic system and because of the different history I have, which normally that magic system ties into. So I do all of that. And then the timeline and like the history of magic and everything. So I go through and I really figure out all of that. And then I do sort of like a world Bible. And do I still have my one in reach? Let me grab it real quick. Alright, so I showed this a little bit in one of my videos, which I can link my videos below of where I put this together. But this is my world Bible for my second book. So I have like, you can see all my characters and all my things down along here. I have a bunch of details on my main character, like timelines, histories. I really like the Story Genius like origin scenes and all of that. So I have all of those in here. All of the crossroad moments for the main characters, escalating ticks to action, which is part of that Story Genius thing. I love that. I have like family trees in here, descriptions of the family. All the individual family members have like their own pages and stuff. You know, the different settlements. So like here's one of my maps of my main character's home. And I just kind of figure this out as I go, and I really like using these, I don't even remember what they're called. Is this like a happy planner? Yeah. So this is a happy planner, and I have just loose leaf paper that I can print on or just put in here. And I just go through and figure all that out. I do all like my important like floor plans and stuff. All the other units I'll have pages in for. I have maps for the world, maps for flora and fauna where I kind of detail that out. I have magic systems in here. Just like everything that I think would be relevant I have in here, like clothing sketches of when I was figuring out like what the clothing would look like for this culture. All that sort of stuff. I just put in one big, easy, referenceable book, and I've done that different every time so far. So with my Blood Magic project, I use, I think it's called World Anvil eventually, which is like an online kind of wiki builder where you put everything in there. And it's incredibly powerful, and if you're doing epic fantasy, I think something like that can be really valuable. But it's a little bit harder for me to reference because you have to like go to the website and log in, and it's not quite as easily like, it's not quite as great for my workflow. And also a lot of my other projects just really don't need that level of detail, and I really do like to work on paper. So I'll sort of build up in notebooks just like random notes, and eventually they'll start to condense and make more sense and be more organized, and then at that point I can start putting them in something like this. I did try, I think it's called Campfire. I tried that briefly for this project before I did this, and I think I tried it too late in my, so I'm gonna leave that like an option for this next project, that maybe if I want to put it in like Campfire or do like Plotter for my outlining, I'm gonna consider that and like maybe give it a try and see if doing it earlier in the process like works for me. But otherwise, I'll just do this again and I'll have a physical book. So that's sort of the process I go through. Yeah, so I think that's basically all the phases. And then after I get through all of that, like I might do a couple more passes on my outline. I might get some like critique partner type feedback on my outlines and really get it fleshed out. My outlines tend to be really detailed. I use, again, like binder books for it, and I have each scene will be a whole page, and I print out templates and stuff, but I don't know, we'll see. All of this stuff is, I'm sure, gonna evolve and change as I go through and do more book projects, but that's sort of what my process is right now. So I'm really excited to get started on this next project. I think the first thing I'm gonna do, so the next video, is going to be going through all my plot bunnies and mapping them out and figuring out what I want to work on next, and I guess just generally talking about what that process is for me, like how I pair things together, how I decide what to write next, and then kind of chat about what I think I want to do next. So I'm excited for that. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. I never say this, I always forget, but like, comment, subscribe, whatever. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, put them down below. If there's any specific parts in the process that you're curious about, throw them down below and I'll see if I can get to them. But yeah, I'm excited to go through a whole like project and be able to document the whole thing here with you versus like popping in the middle of the process. So this is gonna be fun, and I will see you next time.